was wondering how you currently view them as a competitor, and do you feel you need to counter their investment with additional investment in your own roster, since you could eventually be competing for media rights? Or could it be a situation like we saw back in the day, where rising tides lift all boats?
Well, it's certainly not a situation where rising tide, because that was when Ted Turner was coming after us and with all of the Time Warner's assets as well. That was a different situation. AEW is where they are. I don't really know what their plans are. All I know is what our plans are. I don't consider them a competition in the way that I would consider WCW back in the day. Not anywhere near close to that. And I'm not so sure what their investments are as far as their talent is concerned, but perhaps we can give them some more.
What it hit for, cause I've still come to raise hell like Mephisto. Please don't front, cause I'll karate chop your lymph node. Noodle arm punk, you punch and end up with your wrist.
Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. So, Vince McMahon, the voice of God himself, has decided that AEW is not competition, and that when it comes to investing in their talent roster, well, perhaps we can help them by sending them some more talent. Ooh-wee. This is why I call Vince the warlord of the wrestling business. He is a supreme asshole. All right, so both of these things got people pretty upset. For starters, there's a lot of people who think he should take AEW seriously. Look at the gains they've made in 2 years. He'll be a fool to not take them seriously. Look at how good they're doing in the demos. They got all of this momentum. Take them seriously, Vince. And he's kind of like, too busy running a multi-billion-dollar company, multimedia company. He's got all these other things in his lap. He's trying to create new revenue streams. He's got to create TV shows. He's got to push new superstars. He's got to do creative. He's got all this stuff. Why would he take time out his very busy day to give 2 shits about weirdos who are stabbing each other in the head with forks? Why? Why would a man as important as Vince McMahon spend more brain cells than he possibly need? Why would he waste heartbeats talking about AEW? The only reason he would even talk about it is because an investor asked. Otherwise, he wouldn't even be talking about this company. But let's review what he said. He said specifically that Ted Turner and all of his assets were leaning towards putting WWF out of business. That's what he says. And even if it's not true, and I know Bischoff probably thinks that it's not true, and it was not true, ultimately, that's how Vince feels. He felt like Ted Turner was trying to run him out of the business. Therefore, he took that very, 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 very personally. Even in one of the documentaries, he even said, you own TV networks. Why would you put your show on directly against us? The only reason you would do that is if you were trying to put us out of business. That's the only reason you would have done it. That's, when the creation of Nitro, it could have been Tuesday Night Nitro. It could have been Wednesday Night Nitro. It could have been Thursday Night Nitro. It was Monday. Why did they pick Monday? They picked Monday because Raw was on Monday. So he's saying, no, we don't see AEW the same level of competition that we see WCW, because WCW put a show on directly against us. That's what he means. He's saying these guys don't want to compete with us directly. They just want to exist in the marketplace. I don't care about that. For the years, TNA just wanted to exist in the marketplace. When they did try to run head-to-head on Raw, you see what happened. They thought Raw was weakened. We could take them. We got Hogan. It didn't work out, did it? Wrestling Society X tried to run head up with ECW. It's a bad idea. Now, AEW did jump the first hurdle, which was NXT. Partly because a lot of the people who are boosters of AEW were the kind of people who were boosting NXT. And NXT was very, 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 very much hyped by the same wrestling media that now has turned their backs on them and stabbed them in the back. A2 Brutus? Yes, indeed. Trust me, I was fighting the NXT battle for a long time too, saying that, man, hey, this stuff is not going to work. Not that NXT sucked or anything like that, but it was clear that there was going to be a major difference between people who were, stars on NXT and then they moved to Raw or SmackDown. It's been this case since 2013. It's always been that case. It's always been the same thing. In any event, he doesn't see AEW the same way. He doesn't see them on that as WCW point 2 or whatever. And now this leads us to the second piece. We can actually talk more about the WCW thing, because WCW did have a lot of momentum, but WCW, did this exact same thing that AEW is doing now. They signing away stars, most of whom are older and more established in WWE. Hall and Nash were like in their mid-30s. Hogan was in his 40s. Randy Savage was in his 40s. And they signed them over to their show. They failed to make new stars because they just replaced their current roster with former WWF guys. And it seems like AEW is going to do the same thing, or at least something similar. They may try to mix in some younger guys, but for the most part, most of their roster is going to end up being WWE. I don't want to say cast-offs, because guys have the right to work elsewhere. But guys who worked in WWE and spent a lot of time there. So that's one thing. So now he made the little joke about he doesn't know what their investment is in their talent, but he'll be, perhaps we can send them some more. So this upset a lot of people too, because they were like, why is he joking about firing people? That is so bad. It's so horrible. Why would he do that? And I'm saying, like, for starters, it's a joke. Secondly, he's at the point now where he's tired of hearing about AEW and all of the investments and crap that they're doing. It's like, so what? And I've been saying this for a long time when it comes to AEW and AEW success. You should want AEW to succeed. You should. Everyone should. The problem is AEW wants to compete, or they want to compete through the back door, is what I mean. What I'm saying is that people want to compete cross nights. Like, oh, we got a 0.4 on our demographics on Wednesdays where there was nothing else on the air, and you are competing against Monday Night Football, and therefore we win. It's like, what? That's the kind of shit people want to do. That stuff is disingenuous and garbage as fuck. When WCW wanted to compete with WWE, they went head up. WWE had an hour, they went 2 hours. Now what? You want to have a pay-per-view? We're going to have a pay-per-view on the same night. Same tactics Vince was doing. Vince had did the same tactics a couple of years before when he used to run pay-per-views at the same time WCW was running pay-per-views. He was running sometimes in the same city. Like, sure, it's dirty, but that was the game. That was the viciousness of the business at the time. AEW don't want that problem. They don't want them problems. When it comes to Rampage, which is their hour-long show, they didn't put it on at 9 o'clock where they can go head up to the second hour of SmackDown, which may even be a battle they can actually win. Because, usually when SmackDown starts, they tell you what's going to happen on the show, so you could be like, fuck that main event, I'll go watch Rampage. No, they put it on at 10 o'clock, hoping that wrestling fans will stop watching SmackDown and then go watch their show. They want to be complimentary. They don't want to be competition. They playing this game, this tribalist game, for the benefit of their bullshit cult. Okay? Their bullshit ass cult think it's a competition, but Jericho went and gave the network some views. If this is a bitter competition, why would Jericho go on Steve Austin's podcast and Vince McMahon allowed it? This ain't no bitter competition. It's clear Vince didn't give a fuck. When he let that happen, he didn't care. He doesn't give a shit. He's so rich and wealthy, and the WWE is doing so well. If you go through the investment call, which nobody did, people didn't really even focus on the investment call or anything like that. They just said, oh, well, he talked about AEW, so that's the thing. Every time he talks about AEW, people, and I get it. The investors are probably wrestling fans. At least this guy was. And he was like, I gotta throw the red meat out there for the wrestling journalists. And this became the only thing that they talked about. If you listen to the entire investment call, Nick Khan was talking about how they were busting gate records and selling so much merchandise. All of this stuff that, Meltzer is telling you that, they're beating them in some markets. And WWE is talking about, like, yeah, we got 50% more merchandise in this market this time than we did the last time we were here. They're busting down the numbers about how much money they're making. And on the other end, Dave Meltzer is telling you, oh, yeah, AEW's catching up to them. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? They don't even care about that. They don't care, dude. Like, they're talking about making new TV shows and doing all other kind of stuff. They're not studying AEW. Rightfully so. Why would they? Why would they? And then he's, the investor, and I get it, the investor, he was right to ask the question. I'm not going to say he was wrong. That, look what AEW is doing as far as investing in their roster. But what are they doing? They're investing in their roster by bringing people in, not building people up. Vince is kind of be like, what the hell are you talking about, bro? Look how much money we spending on Brock. Well, when they eventually bring Brock back. Look how much money we spending on Cena and Goldberg to invest in our roster. All the talks with The Rock about bringing him back. The various other people that they've been bringing back. And it's a real bizarre thing to me that people think that signing two 40-year-old guys is a super investment in the roster, and then WWE doesn't know how to make any new stars, which of course I saw 100 times. I saw this writer from No DQ. I'm not going to say his name mainly because I don't remember it. I'm also not going to put his tweet on the screen because I don't want to start no shit. But he says like, oh, WWE has a problem creating new stars, and he thinks that it's not a big deal that AEW is signing two of their biggest stars of the last decade. And it's like, Daniel Bryan, sure. But Daniel Bryan's temperament isn't one that's going to make him be a superstar in that company. He's too much of a go along to get along guy. I'm just happy to be here. Let's go wrestle. This is the same Daniel Bryan who talked Vince McMahon into giving him 25 minutes with Drew Gulak on a pay-per-view. Come on, bro. No. Vince ain't got nothing to worry about in terms of Daniel Bryan. CM Punk, the initial impact will be a big deal. Sure. Nobody's going to deny that. The initial bump from CM Punk is going to be fine because, it's going to be, he hasn't wrestled in 7 years. And, Vince might even think that he's not relevant to their audience, even though people continue to chant for him. And, that kind of thing. But it's not going to last forever. CM Punk is not Stone Cold Steve Austin. I don't know how many times I have to keep saying that to people. Like the numbers bear it out. Even when he was at his highest, most critically acclaimed mainstream point, CM Punk was not a huge star. And somebody said, and I think it was very smart, that people who love Daniel Bryan and CM Punk are already watching AEW. And that's really what most of the hype is. And that is absolutely true. That's absolutely true. But enough about that. I think that AEW wants to be acknowledged. Acknowledge me. And they're like, no, we don't have to. Not only are you number two, but you're a distant number two. And that's the weird thing that when you see Meltzer and all these guys talking about, well, AEW is a viable number two. It's like, so? It's still, it's come on, man. So what? These things are so much bigger than wrestling TV ratings. WWE is talking about, gaining 20 to 40 new sponsorships, blue chip sponsorships, and all this kind of stuff. You listen to these investor calls. It's a lot of mumbo jumbo and a lot of accounting that I don't really want to go into. And it's boring as hell. And I didn't even do the fucking homework when it comes to the accounting, to be honest. They'd probably take my damn master's degree away if I tried to do it. But at some point, you have to realize that they're not playing in the same sandbox. Okay? WWE is talking about doing scripted television shows. And they're talking about touting their success with the A&E stuff. I'm going to go through all that in a different video. And AEW's like, look at what we got here. We're going to bring back CM Punk. We're going to do a double cage match on TV. And everybody's like, okay, fine. Do your double cage match. So who gives a shit? We're doing other things. We're branching out. You know, Raw and SmackDown are doing okay. The ratings could always be better, but whatever. Who cares? We have other ventures out there that we have to, other revenue streams we're trying to lock in. You have to be smarter than the average bear. And it seems like, and I'm not even saying it's Tony Khan, because I don't think it's Tony Khan. I just think it's the people that he surrounds himself with. The Jerichos, the Meltzers, all the dweeb ass wrestling journalists, all those guys want to drag Tony Khan into a battle, to a pit fight. And that guy just wants to create a fun wrestling program. Tony Khan is a dork. Okay, he just wants to create a fun wrestling program. Everybody else wants a dog fight. And the worst thing about all this crap is that it seems that a lot of people are projecting onto Vince what they feel. Oh, Vince is scared. He's scared. He's worried about AEW. He knows that media rights companies, and he's like, no, man, that's how you would feel. That's not how he feels. Look, Vince McMahon was born in 1949, I believe he was. Like, the guy is like old as dirt. He's seen pretty much every wrestling promotion rise up, have a hot period, and die out. If you were as old as Vince McMahon, you would not be concerned or surprised at the meteoric rise of AEW. You would not really pay them much attention unless they stayed there for a couple of years. Like, if they were in the same spot and they were still riding high 3 or 4 years into it, then maybe it might have his attention. But Vince has seen every promotion at their hottest. And he's went, head to head with some promotions when they were at their hottest. He doesn't care. That's the thing. Like, he has a greater frame of reference than most people in this sphere. He went head up with Bill Watson, got his ass kicked in some of these territories. He's gone head up with some of these promoters and tried to run shows, and the shows flopped. Like when he tried to run, New Orleans. And he tried to run New Orleans with Hulk Hogan and Junkyard Dog in a tag team match, and it flopped. He's gone through stuff like that. He's raided different people's territory. I mean, he's seen all of these upstart promotions that are mostly hype come out of nowhere and be big successes and then burn out in 3 or 4 years. I mean, look at ECW. ECW started in 1993? By 1996, people were chanting ECW at WWF shows. By 1998, ECW was pretty much out of business. They were barely still around. Like, this kind of thing, and that's only a 5-year period. Look at the first couple of years of TNA. TNA really started catching on in 06, 07. That's when I really started paying attention to it. When Kurt Angle jumped ship, that's kind of really what it became a really big deal to go to TNA. People thought TNA was going to be the ones that's going to take down WWE. He's been through this before. Stop projecting. These dweebs are projecting. Vince is not concerned. He's too old to care at this point. Not only is he too successful, he's too fucking old. He doesn't even give a shit about these guys, man. I want people to smarten up and understand that Vince McMahon he's not you. He's not me. Okay? I know what I would care about if I was in his position. You think you have an idea what you would care about if you were in his position. But the only people who have ever been in his position is him. So when people are criticizing him, it's like, what is your frame of reference? He's the most successful wrestling promoter of all time, ever. Period. He has no peers in the subject. How do we, the only people who can possibly criticize him, most of them are dead. So it's a weird situation that we're in here. And it's just a lot of this stuff being pushed by wrestling journalists. And thankfully, I know Tony Khan, I know we joke about Meltzer being on Tony Khan's payroll and all that kind of stuff, even though, I don't think he needs to pay him. I think he just likes doing it, because they like to see these Monday Night Wars, Sunday Night Wars, and Wednesday Night Wars and all that garbage, right? They love that shit. The wrestling journalists do. The promotions don't seem to like it too much. They just want to succeed. They just want to put on a great wrestling show. They want to put on a great wrestling product. And sometimes that means we have to galvanize our audience by taking pot shots at other promotions. And WWE sometimes like to take pot shots at other promotions too, because it's fun. But people didn't think when Vince McMahon was taking jokes at these AEW, they didn't think it was fun. They didn't think it was funny because he's punching down. It's like, well, if you don't want somebody to punch it down, you don't punch up. You know, when you step in the ring with Mike Tyson or Muhammad Ali, they're under no obligation to take it easy on you. If AEW wants to talk shit and, you know, Vince wants to take cheap shots, it is what it is. But I don't suggest anybody does that. I think everybody should be focused on their own shit because guess what? All of them are fucked. I can sit here and list all the wrestling companies that are fucked and what is wrong with them. Most of them is that the rosters are garbage and the wrestlers aren't worth shit. They're certainly not B-plus players. You know, but, you know, it's ridiculous. Now, on the subject of, you know, whether he's going to fire a bunch of wrestlers and everything, he was joking. But I think people really took this thing way too seriously. And they don't understand that, you know, the world is bigger than TV ratings and all this kind of stuff. And Meltzer has them gassed and thinking that, oh, SmackDown got $1 billion. Therefore, if, you know, one day Dynamite could get $1 billion. It's like, I think more than likely they're going to buy Dynamite rather than give Tony Khan $1 billion to write it. You know, they'd probably just buy the fucking promotion and be done with it. But, you know, I've already said that's the world we're going to end up with anyway. When Vince is gone, you're probably going to start seeing a lot of people just buying wrestling promotions. And, you know, that's way in the future. Anyway, that's it. Let's talk about it in the comment section below. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, sponsor the channel via Subscribe Star, $5 a month. Thank you guys for your time. I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace out.
Tell me what's worse than learning all that you led to believe was all horse crap. They distort, so question as